В момента, приятели, не знам дали някои от вас инвестират в нещо, но борсите гърмат. Гърмат смисъл нагоре. Защото, така, преди да започна. Следващата тема днес, която обсъждаме, е дали има балон в AI, в изкуствения интелект, в тази индустрия, която се разширява супер скоростно и супер бързо. Има много едно интересно видео, което видях. Искам да го гледаме заедно на английски език от тук колегата, който прави подобни видеа на моите и стримва също онлайн. Това е Big A, се казва човека. И така му изглежда канала. Всичко се вдъхновява от също така това интервю на Джон Елкън. За който не знае, Джон Елкън е един от големите собственици на Exor. Exor е компанията, която притежава Peugeot, Fiat и много още компании. И той е в кръга там на олигарсите около Тръмп, но също така е и приятел с Джеф Бейзос и имаше интервю с Джеф Бейзос, който говореше за иновации, т.е. той е на Stellantis шеф, така че е интересно интервю и този стример, който го открих по случайност, но е с 390 хиляди субскрайбъра, това видео има 348 хиляди гледания. Въпросът е, Джеф Бейзос казва, че everything is good и става въпрос за добрия, хубавия балон в AI индустрията. Сега това ще го пуснем на 1.25. Ще ви пуснем и субтитри, както винаги, за тези, които не знаят английски, но ако има такива, които не знаят английски действително, моля ви се да си подобрите английския, приятелчета.
Did you see OpenAI 10% stake in AMD? Yeah, dude. Can we chart this out real quick? OpenAI is buying a ton of GPUs from AMD.
Сега слушайте. За да може да се развива изкуствен интелект, има нужда от огромни дата центъри с процесори. И една от най-големите компании за процесори в момента е AMD. И OpenAI е компанията, която държи ChatGPT. И това, което обяснява човека в момента е, че OpenAI са си купили акции на AMD. Тоест, те си купуват акции на техния продавач на хардуер.
While at the same time taking a 10% stake in them. So we've got what? We got Nvidia putting money into OpenAI, who's putting money into AMD.
Така, виждате ли? Nvidia трябва да продава на OpenAI. И Nvidia инвестира в OpenAI и де-факто им бута акциите нагоре. OpenAI бутат пари в AMD, които правят процесори. За който не знае, Nvidia прави график карти, които също са един вид процесори.
Nvidia at the same time is putting money into Intel. So now...
Айде, Intel също е конкурентна компания на AMD и те последните години доста паднаха като качество.
Three so-called competitors in the chip-making business in America are all incestuously connected by financial relationships. It's so deeply incestuous. All of these companies are...
Малко е като кръгче.
You know, all three of them actually are TSMC for Foundry. You know, OpenAI again is like the money they're giving to get the stake in AMD.
И тия неща се контролират от американското КФН, Комисия финансов надзор. А кой го контролира КФН? То Трампагата. Така че тук някакви схеми се въртат, дето ако инвестираш на правилната точка и продадеш на правилната точка, правиш много яко кинти.
These like they're promising to buy data center capacity. So AMD has to build out data centers, hundreds of billions for money that OpenAI doesn't really have yet. Hey, I thought about making this a separate clip, but I think I'll just add it here to this one because it's so relevant. The scale of this is what's kind of crazy. This AMD deal is individually interesting, and I'll talk about it more in a second. If we zoom out a bit, OpenAI's deals, computing deals that it's now promised money for, tops.
OpenAI е направила сделки за $1 трилион, приятели, с партньорство с Nvidia, AMD и Oracle.
$1 trillion in money that they have promised to Nvidia and Oracle and CoreWeave and now AMD. They go to everybody in Silicon Valley who can give them compute, data centers, GPUs, and they're promising them money and saying...
Отиват при всеки един, който е в Силиконовата долина, който може да им осигури хардуер за computation и му казват, че те напълниме с кинти, само ни дава и на нас да ползваме.
Build us out more data centers. But it's money they don't have. Look, nowhere near the capital required to fund these plans.
Обаче всичко е на хартия. Това е балона, че тия пари не съществуват.
They're going to lose $10 billion this year, but they're promising $1 trillion in money they don't have. Part of Silicon Valley's fake it till you make it ethos is to get people to have skin in the game. And basically what I was saying with that incestuous web earlier is that OpenAI has basically gone to everybody and made them reliant on OpenAI surviving to pay them.
Ето всичките де-факто са вкарали парите в това OpenAI и трябва да все едно са го джакнали с енергия и трябва да се движи тази фирма.
Bills to keep their stock up based on promises that OpenAI has made publicly. And I'll get back to, let's get specific here. Let me go back to how weird this AMD deal is, okay? By the way, this AMD deal, Lisa Su, CEO of AMD, described it as pretty innovative. I wouldn't say it came lightly. The unique warrant structure to the deal. Again, we talked about this in a previous video. Sam Altman has really gone all in on not engineering, but financial engineering. And this is a very...
Да, това е другото нещо, че те правят финансово инженерство. Това е много интересно, че те измислят някакви схеми, с които да финансират цялата тази работа и да задействат машината.
Innovative bit of financial engineering. OpenAI wants AMD to make, let's say, this is an estimate number, right? Roughly $70 billion worth of compute for them. AMD's like, all right, give us money.
OpenAI поръчват $70 милиарда там стока от AMD. И те им казват, дайте ни кинти.
OpenAI goes, we don't have the money, so let's figure something out.
Викат, нямаме кинти, нека измислиме нещо.
So here's what they do. OpenAI will give you $70 billion of money it doesn't really have, and then AMD will give you back stock, 10% of the company, which is currently valued at around $34 billion. However, because this has an announcement associated with it, holy shit, OpenAI and AMD are partnering and they're going to build $70 billion worth of compute, announcement, that it caused AMD stock.
Айде, разбрахте ли? Надуват акциите на AMD, защото AMD като продаде 10% акции, толкова много акции се купуват, че цената им се дига. Също казват, че ще правят тази сделка за 70 милиарда и акциите на AMD още повече се дигат. Тоест инвестицията идва от акционерите.
To spike. So if AMD's stock continues to rise, this $34 billion could easily become around $70 billion.
Айде, 10% акции стават 70 милиарда. Честито.
Sells that stock, they essentially got the GPUs and stuff for free. They get $70 billion worth of stock to buy $70 billion worth of goods. No real money is changing hands. OpenAI isn't actually spending anything, but they're getting the real compute. How are they doing this? It's all from the outside investors. They're basically making a big leverage bet that news announcements around AI will cause stock prices to rise. That is what is going on here. I think I distilled this in a previous video, but this one is the most concrete, direct example. Like OpenAI is only able to have this money if this stock goes up in value. And the only reason that happens is because they know the announcement will do that.
Тоест, де-факто, накрая създават едни пари от пазара, защото надуват акциите на едната компания и де-факто си произвеждат $70 милиарда, с които да произведат реалната техника.
I don't want to harp on it too much, but this is like the gist of what they're doing with CoreWeave and with Oracle and with NVIDIA in roundabout ways. It all feels tenuous. But Jeff Bezos has a different thought. Let's talk about it. So
Jeff Bezos на това интервю, което ви показах в началото, каза, че ще има някакъв балон, но който може да бъде добър балон, така го нарече.
Bezos says we are in a bubble, but it's a good bubble.
The second thing that happens when people get very excited, as they are today about artificial intelligence, for example, is every experiment gets funded. The good ideas and the bad ideas. And
тоест в такъв ентузиазъм всичко получава пари, и добрите и лошите идеи.
Investors have a hard time in the middle of this excitement.
Защото и всички искат да инвестират в 10 проекта и единия от тях да успее, те ще излезат много на печалба.
Distinguishing between the good ideas and the bad ideas. But it doesn't mean that anything that's happening isn't real. AI is real. And it is going to change every industry. In fact, it's a very unusual technology in that regard.
Това, дето казва, е, че този балон създава нещо реално, а не нещо нереално.
There are so many startup companies that are kind of AI companies of various kinds. And that's normal for this phase. But that is not the biggest impact that AI is going to have. The biggest impact that AI is going to have is it is going to affect every company in the world. It is going to make their quality go up and their productivity go up. But the great thing about industrial bubbles, this is a kind of industrial bubble, as opposed to financial bubbles, and I'll tell you what I mean by that. If you go back, like the 90s had a biotech bubble, and there were a bunch of pharma startup companies that were designing drugs and using new techniques, and the world got very excited. The investment world got very excited. As a group, they all lost money, but we did get a couple of life-saving drugs.
Ето, казва, 90-те имало балон на какво беше там някаква биотехнологиите и са създадени имало е балон, някои са фалирали, но са създали няколко животоспасяващи лекарства, което е, нали, нещо реално излезнало от това нещо.
A bubble like a banking bubble, the crisis in the banking system, that's just bad. That's like 2008.
Okay, в банкинга е зле, обаче ако е нещо реално, индустриален балон е добър.
Those bubbles society wants to avoid. The ones that are industrial are not nearly as bad. They could even be good, because when the dust settles and you see who are the winners, society benefits from those inventions.
Okay, so this is the key part. Is he's making the argument that this could be a good bubble, an industrial bubble, because all of the money being thrown around is helping AI speed up and get built and getting the ground layer created. And once the valuations deflate, we'll have made some progress. This could very well be true. I think Jeff Bezos is a smart guy. I have criticisms of making employees pee in bottles, but I don't think he's stupid. The problem is there's so much going on in that when the dust settles. He says it in one line, and maybe for a billionaire, that is one line. But when the dust settles is, you know, the entire stock market of America is propped up on this AI spend. The 401ks and retirements of like every median American.
Да, това е другото нещо, което трябва да се знае. В Америка пенсионната система е до някъде свързана с борсата и с пазара, защото те имат тези 401k, които са нещо като с пенсионни фондове и там всеки се само осигурява до някаква степен и ако борсата рухне, твоята пенсионна там програма също рухва.
American is proud on this. When the dust settles is them losing all of their collective wealth. You know, like if that valuations were to normalize, would be such a disaster, not only the stock market and the retirements, but there's so many, like, again, our economy right now is propped up by the top end of that K. People that are spending, basically like 10% of Americans, 20% of Americans are well over half of all of the spending. If the rich people in America, or the well-off people in America, stop traveling and spending, there's nothing left. The economy is falling apart. And so they are only spending because of the wealth effect of their stocks. They feel wealthy because their stocks are up and their housing is up. When those crash, they stop spending. So he's just talking about it like it's nothing. Like it's like, well, whatever. At the end of the day, we'll have a bunch of GPU.
Пичагата има един куп кинти и да избухне нещо, няма страшно.
You know, it's like, well, if this is a massive misallocation of capital and this is a bubble, then the interim pain is going to be severe. It could have political effects. People become more radicalized in a you know, recessionary environment. It's not that I disagree that AI will be world changing, and it's not that I disagree that in the long term, you know, it will have big impacts on all businesses. I actually agree with most of the things he's saying. It's just that he's so cavalier about like, yeah, if it's a bubble, who knows? Okay, it'll be good. You're flashing forward. I mean, even people lost their savings in 01. Canada, Canada had like, when Nortel was wiped out for Canada, they had long-lasting pain for like decades afterwards. People were hurt for that for years. So I feel like he's...
като гръмне, може да гръмне много голяма система.
He's being too cavalier.
The benefits...
Защото това са реални инвестиции, реални пари, които хората инвестират.
To society from AI are going to be gigantic.
And if we go back 25 years ago,
приятели, гледайте филма Don't Look Up. Гледайте го този филм, ако не сте го гледали.
When the internet was in that bubblish moment, no one would have predicted a lot of the industrial benefits of that industrial bubble. And the fiber, huge investment that we're putting in infrastructure.
It's a perfect example that all of that fiber optic cable that got laid, and by the way, the companies who laid all that cable went out of business.
Yeah, okay. He's so excited about it. He's so gleeful. It's just so funny because, like, yes, this happened, but in the moment, it was like so painful. It was like so deeply, like, people lost their saving. It was a big, it's crazy. He's just like, yeah, and a lot of these companies, you know, like what he's implying there is that some of these companies that are building, you know, the web we just pointed out, the GPU web could go out of business, or the OpenAI layer, or whatever, they could go out of business. And that would be such a shock to the market. I want to do a quick follow-up on Sora real quick.
Brutalno.
It's not big enough to be a clip, so I don't want to say it forever. Saw a couple more Sora videos. Some of them did make me laugh.
Видяхте ли Sora, приятели? Да ви покажа ли и Sora? Новата социална медия. Видяхте ли я?
I'll just be dead honest.
Още не е естествено на разположение в Европа.
Here's the thing. Every Sora video I've seen is off platform. So it's just ripped off and put on TikTok or Instagram or Twitter. So they're making no money on it. So this is already failing. But then Sam Altman came out and said, uh-oh, people are making way more Sora videos than we thought. It's all costing us money. We haven't made any money yet. They literally, he just said this. Two things he said. This is like pretty funny. Sora update 1. We've been learning quickly from how people are using Sora and taking feedback from users, right holders, and other interested groups. Because if you remember in my first video about it, I was like, hey, the way they're doing copyright makes no sense. Having an opt-in, or I'm sorry, an opt-out program for copyright violations is not legal. And Sam Altman and his team figured that out pretty quick. We're gonna make 2 changes soon. First, we will give rights holders more granular control over generation of characters, similar to the opt-in model for likeness, but with additional controls. They're changing it. We're hearing from a lot of rights holders who are very excited. No, you're not. You're hearing from a lot of lawyers. From a lot of lawyers. I think the WWE freaked out. The WWE had all of its lawyers on Insta call, battering your door down. And that's just one of many who are freaking out. There was like, dude, it was generating episodes of Rick and Morty, of anime, of SpongeBob, of Disney. It's crazy that they thought they'd get away with that. Also, we'd like to acknowledge the remarkable creative output of Japan. We are struck by how deep the connection between users and Japanese content is. Wait, I want to show you something. This is what I feel like when he says connection between the users and Japanese content. This is a Sora video of Sam Altman.
Man, it's so cool. Everything is free. Okay, I'm taking these. Boy, coming up.
Stealing Studio Ghibli's work.
Bring those back. Whoa, gotta go. Stop, get them back. Nope, too late. Hey, come back here. Free art.
Това са видеа генерирани с Sora, приятели.
Baby.
That's what's actually happening. The whole idea of this, though. That's the
Sora, за който не знае, нова социална мрежа, където всички видеа се генерират с AI. И може да се генерираш видеа на себе си просто в някаква абсурдна ситуация. Примерно пускам видео и пиша Георги Лechtarski е в древна България и се сражава с Хан Крум рамо до рамо.
And that's going to get figured out. They're going to have to tighten up their controls or whatever, figure that out. But the second thing, and this is the main reason they created this app to begin with, and we talked about this in video 1, we're going to have to
Брутално.
Now make money for video generation.
Дистопия, чат. Живееме в дистопия, буквално.
He says, people are generating much more than we expected per user, and a lot of videos are being generated for very small audiences. Duh! That's how all social media works! What did you think?
Леле, колко ли полиците ще използват Sora или копия на нея? Бро, брутално е. Видяхте ли одата на Пеевски?
It was gonna be all bangers?
Да не е с Sora, ама...
Like one video that hits for millions of views every time? Most people are gonna make slop crap for their friends. Every time it costs you a bunch of GPU runtime to make, then it's a huge net loss. So they're going to try and share some of the revenue with rights holders who want their characters. So they're hoping they can like get SpongeBob or, you know, Disney to agree to take a cut rather than shut them down. I very much doubt there's enough revenue to make that worthwhile. But I think what he's quickly realizing is they're not making, this is not a moneymaker. I think they thought this would be a moneymaker, but all this is it's like imagine hinging your multi-billion-dollar business on this website. You guys ever used meme generator? Is Sam Altman stupid as generate? Now, is this a multi-billion-dollar? Is this worth a lot of money? Now, this is not a website that's worth $500 billion.
Той го приличи на meme generator.
Make a little bit of money on ads, but this is not a profit. This is like a big, powerful business. Do you understand? Get that, like, this is all that Sora is right now. It's a meme generator for other websites. People go there, they make some kind of meme, and they bring it back to TikTok and they share it. There's no money in that for you, Sam. But this costs like 0.00001 cent to create, but creating the video costs a lot of money. You have to run a lot of GPUs for that. So yeah, I think this is proving to be kind of a really stupid idea. This AI slop infinite content farm. And that's with Sora being used. As far as I can tell, the meta one, the vibes one, that's not even being used, bro. Then it doesn't even have any user. They just made an infinite generated slop farm for AI and no one even used it. Sora has users. Sora's number one in the App Store, but it's not making any money.
Ще почне, бе, бро, като почне да има реклами и в Sora. Или като направят да си пуснеш membership. В момента го тестват. Приятели, живееме в дистопия.
Здравейте, скъпи колеги професори и професорки. Благодаря, че гледате моите клипове. Ако искате да подкрепяте проекта, следете ме във всички социални мрежи. Ставайте членове, дарявайте в revolut и идвайте най-вече в Дискорда. Там е истинското комюнити от професорската гилдия. Чакам ви!